Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Monday, July 15th. How's everybody doing? Wow. So, a lot to talk about today. Trump just announced his pick for vice president, J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio. The guy's 39 years old, young guy, man. But I'm going to be talking about economic commentary. I do have to say, today's market action, totally understandable after those shocking the events of Saturday night, man. That was just shocking. I mean, I don't know what else to say, and tragic at the same time. I mean, that guy who lost his life, firefighter protecting his family. Trump so close to being assassinated, man. And just like the images, man, that image of him, I don't know, I don't know how you guys feel, but that image of him fist pumped, American flag in the background, the guy, whether you like him or not, I mean, the guy's just, I mean, he's a savage, man. In that state, in that chaotic state, after almost getting his head blown off, grazed with a bullet from an AR-15, down on the floor with the chaos surrounding him, getting up, having the presence of mind with that fist pump, say fight, blood streaming down his face. I mean, the guy's an absolute warrior, man. I mean, that's how I see it anyway. But let's talk about the markets. You know, this is not I don't do political commentary, or very rarely, if I do anything at all. I don't do political commentary on this channel. This is MMT, this is markets, this is trading, this is mental game stuff. That's what I talk about. Today's rally was totally understandable because it was a relief rally. I mean, relief in the fact that Trump was not assassinated, even if you're not for Trump. I mean, to have a political assassination, that is a trauma, that is a traumatic thing for a country. You know, we've been through that with JFK, with Martin Luther King, RFK. They weren't presidents, the last two, but still they were notable figures. RFK was running for president. So you don't want to have to go through that as a nation. And so there was an understandable, deep sigh of relief. And also, you know, at the same time, the tragedy of that guy who was a firefighter that got killed shielding his family. But today was a relief rally. But, you know, to argue that Trump is still alive and somehow that is a bullish economic argument, I mean, to make that argument, that's specious. That, in my opinion, there's really no connection that we know of right now. I mean, Trump's the candidate, yes. We may know some of his policies if he ends up being elected, which right now it looks like he's definitely the favorite in the race with Biden. But we don't know. We don't know. And one thing that I said today, at least, you know, is sending out to my subscribers, is that, you know, a very famous financier, Nathan Rothchild, of the famed Rothschild banking family, he once said, the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. Well, you know, that's maybe a bad analogy right now. You know, setting the irony aside, because there was blood. There was blood on Saturday. But what Rothschild meant was the time to buy is when things are looking terrible, things are looking horrible. And that's certainly not the case now. I mean, if I look at what's happening right now with the markets specifically, I mean, we've gone through a period, you know, where we've seen this excitement and enthusiasm about interest rate cuts. Inflation has moderated. Okay, we got the whole NVIDIA and artificial intelligence dynamic going on right now. So you have a lot of people who are just coming into the market because they see things as good, as positive, as bullish. You know, things are good. Okay, and that's not what Nathan Rothchild was talking about when he said the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. I mean, he was literally spelling out a scenario that was diametrically opposed to what's happening right now. I mean, you want to buy, for example, I mean, if you go back and or if you've been following me for a while, my videos in late 2022, October 2022, when the Fed, when they already had been raising interest rates for seven months. And it was a panic. It was a bloodbath. I mean, I remember I was talking to people saying, that Mike, I can't take it anymore. I'm dumping everything. I'm bailing out because it's just going to keep going down. It's going to keep going down. And I was strongly opposed to that view. I said, this is going to turn around and we're at an inflection point. As a matter of fact, I spoke about coming to an inflection point prior to October 2022, where I said the interest rate hikes, the negative impact from the rate hikes on financial assets, that's going to flip around because the economy is going to start to feel the impact of the increased interest income transfers. And that was exactly what happened. And then we went all through 2023 where almost everybody was bearish, and they were predicting recession forecasts were universal in 2023 among economists. Coming into 2023, every single mainstream economist out there, I should say every single economist, I don't even have to put the mainstream part in it. I think I was the only one saying there's not going to be, I said, as long as they raise the debt ceiling in 2023, which they did, there's not going to be a recession. And there wasn't. We had good growth. But now we have the complete opposite scenario where if you just look at the market right now, and if you look at the environment, the psychological environment, okay, the sentiment environment, where, hey, everything looks great. The Fed's going to cut rates and inflation is moderating. And, we have this new paradigm going on with artificial intelligence, which is like the advent of the internet when that happened, or so they say, when the internet came about in the mid-90s. And now we had this horrible, terrible, shocking thing that happened on Saturday, but thankfully we didn't have a political assassination. Unfortunately, yes, one person died, and that's a tragedy. But when you look at the environment and you think about who is getting into the stock market right now, these are people who need to see all the time. I mean, this is the same group of people. These are like the people that sold in 2022. These are the people who need to see concrete evidence that everything is great. Okay, it's like one of these scenarios where you sit and you wait and you wait and you wait, and I've seen this, not only in terms of behavior, I've seen it talked about, I've seen it expressed, wait till everything looks good. Literally, I mean, I can remember many times, even recently, wait till everything looks good, all right, and then get in. Now, right now, we know, for example, that the economy is slowing down. I've been telling you guys, I made that forecast. I made that forecast months ago when I saw the drop in net government transfers. I said, I remember all the revisions we had in the Atlanta Fed, and I made videos about that. I use a very simple analytical approach. And I'm sure they have dozens and dozens of economists over there at the Atlanta Fed, and they kept bopping around their forecast, and every time they put it up, I said, well, they're going to have to put it down, and sure enough, they put it down. I use a very simple analytical approach, which you know, it's the fiscal flows, which I always tell you, that's the first derivative of all economic activity, okay? So right now, we know right now, because it's happening, that the economy is slowing down, but the stock market's not reflecting that. It's going up almost every single day, and it's going up on these arguments that everything is great and everything is wonderful, okay? The opposite of what Nathan Rothchild said or what he advised. And you don't want to go against the guy who, like, I think their family is it's been said that that's the richest family that ever existed, the Rothschilds. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but, you know, they do have money. There's no question about it. I mean, I think they go back to the 14th century or something like that. That Meyer Rothschild, the original Rothschild, I think he was like in the 1300s, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so the environment now is like, yeah, everything is great. This is the complete opposite of blood in the streets. This is like rainbows and butterfly. You know, imagine if Rothschild said, wait till there's rainbows and butterflies everywhere, and then, you know, then get in. It's kind of like what's going on right now. But here's the thing, like, we don't know, like, I don't know right now. There's things, and I've been talking about this stuff, there's things coming into play potentially next year that could completely reverse the conditions that we have in place right now. And the conditions we have in place right now, they are bullish. I mean, these the interest income transfers, okay, mainly, and the high level of fiscal leading flows, the high level of government spending, okay. Now, things are probably going, I don't know for sure, but here are some of the things that could happen. The Fed could cut interest rates, which I know that everybody out there, with the exception of myself, they're saying, oh, that's going to be a bullish thing. And I keep telling you guys, just like the rate hikes were not a bearish thing, the rate cuts, they're not going to be a bullish thing. Okay, write that down. Remember that I told you that. I don't know if many of you remember that I said way back in 2022 that the rate hikes would be bullish, but I did say that, okay? I'm on record many, many times as having said that. So remember that I'm saying this now, that the rate cuts are not going to be bullish, okay? That's the opposite. That's the removal of those interest income transfers. That's number one. Number two, we still have to get through, I think later this year, September or October, we have to get through another debt ceiling increase. Now, maybe that's going to happen. It always happens. There's brinkmanship all the way to the end, and then Congress eventually does something. But you never know. Again, I'm just raising potential things that could change conditions. Okay, remember, we're in an environment right now where it's like, woohoo, everything is fantastic, we got to buy. These are all these people who either didn't buy, you know, in 2022 and 2023, or they were short, they were selling, and now they're all running into the market and like, woohoo, everything's great, the Fed's going to cut interest rates, and inflation is coming down, and Trump was not assassinated, all right? So we got things that could change conditions fundamentally. And that, if condition, let me put it this way. So I mentioned rate cuts. Be careful what you wish for, okay, monetarists? Rate cuts. The debt ceiling, let's assume that's going to get raised, okay? We got the Trump tax cuts that are expiring next year. That's fiscally, that's the same thing as a tax increase, okay? We don't know if that, I mean, if Trump gets elected, maybe they'll extend the tax cuts. Who knows? Maybe he'll even increase the tax cuts. We don't know. But again, all I'm saying is that there are things out there that are unknowns at this point, all right? I'm not assuming that leading spending flows are going to go down. Okay, so that's still a bullish thing. But I'm saying that there's some things that we don't know. And one thing that we kind of know right now is that the Fed is going to cut interest rates. They're going to cut interest rates at least 2 times this year, because that's what the market is saying. And the Powell Fed always goes with the market. So they're going to cut rates in September. They're going to cut rates in December. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. So that's the first line of change. All right. And that change, that will be a change in basic conditions. All right. And so next year, expiration of the Trump tax cuts, we don't know. We just know that that's on the books, potentially going to happen. It's supposed to happen unless Congress, averts that or they decide to keep those cuts. Depends who's president, depends what the Congress looks like. It depends on a lot of things, all right? Social Security, the increase in Social Security next year is not going to be as big as this year. And this year wasn't as big as last year. All right, so that's also, that's been a contributory factor to the slowdown in economic growth this year. And next year, it's going to be even less, the increase. And I've been saying something that nobody says, that I told you guys this a bunch of times, that my birth year, 1957, I'm 67 years old. My birth year was the year of the most live births in the history of the United States. We had like 4 million plus live births, me one of them. So the Social Security recipient rolls, in other words, people receiving Social Security, that might be peaking out right now. That's an interesting and massively impactful statistic, if I'm right. And if we're like at the peak, right, at the apogee, like think of a missile going up, the apogee is right at the top when it starts to turn down. If we're at the peak of that trend, I mean, that has implications for years to come. So like you're talking about, and I don't want to scare anybody here because I don't know for sure. I'm bringing this up. But that has implications for years to come. And they're not bullish, I can tell you that. Because if Social Security starts to, slowly come back down, that is a massive fiscal support to the economy. Massive, okay? So like, nobody's talking about that. So we're not just talking about a correction in a bull market. We're talking about like a fundamental long-term change in conditions. If that happens, and I'm not calling it. All I'm saying is let's construct the puzzle right now. Like we're detectives and we're putting together a case. We got this kind of euphoric market psychology where people, oh, it's great, the Fed's going to cut rates. They don't understand monetary policy. Oh, and inflation is coming down. And by the way, when the Fed cuts rates, it's the same dynamic in reverse as when they increase rates. Like when they started to increase, then they have to increase and increase and increase, because every increase, it raises the general price level. It adds to the interest income flows in the economy, which picks up economic activity. So then they see that and they're like, oh, it's not working. We got to raise it some more, which raises the general price level again, which increases the interest income transfers. Then they see that and they say, oh, we got to raise it some more. So it's kind of like a self-sustaining thing. And the opposite is true on the downside. When they cut, it reduces the general price level. It takes away interest income transfers. Things start to slow down. They're like, oh, it's slowing down. We better cut some more. They cut again. It reduces, you see what I'm saying? It reduces the price level. It reduces the interest income transfers. Things slow down and say, oh, we got to cut some more. So like you get that dynamic going down. And more of that income is sucked off. So anyway, remember what Nathan Rothchild said. The time to buy is when there is blood in the streets. And it's an unfortunate and ironic statement now, when you consider what went down on Saturday night. But take out the blood part and just, think about what he was saying there. Like, you got to buy when things look terrible and horrible. Like at the bottom of, let me tell you a little story about John Maynard Keynes, one of the greatest economists, the English economist, who's, he's the term Keynesianism was coined from him, where he said, like, in an economic depression, an economic downturn, the government has the power and the responsibility to sustain growth and employment. Now, Keynes was not just a great economist. He was also a great investor. A lot of people don't know that. And he was long stocks and commodities going into the crash of 1929, into the Great Depression. And then when he saw what governments were doing, starting to spend to boost out of that depression. And especially when many countries delinked from the gold standard. They got away from the gold standard to give them autonomy, the ability to spend money to support economic activity. When he saw that, and by the way, the United States was one of the last countries to delink from the gold standard in the Depression. The United States did it in 1933. Other countries like in Europe, like Germany and England, they did it before that. But when Keynes saw that, what do you think he did? He didn't bail out of his stocks. He doubled down. He doubled down into that at the bottom of the Depression. He doubled down on his investments, and by the time when Keynes died, I don't remember what year it was, but he died a very, very wealthy man. He was a great trader, which is more than I could say for 99, maybe 100% of the economists out there today. I'm not on that list. Take that any way you want, as a great economist or a great trader. So anyway, think about that. Keynes bought when there was blood in the streets. Think about that. Anyway, I went pretty long on this one. Folks, I always forget to say this. Please like and subscribe if you lasted this long through the video. I appreciate it. It's been helping me out a lot. And yeah, man, I mean, a lot to think about today. A lot to think about today. So, happy Monday, everybody. New week begins, and see you tomorrow. Don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. See you tomorrow. Bye.